Conspiracy theorists have taken to the internet like bees to a flower. Imagine any kind of wild scheme, and you'll find it there. Those who want to revise history's view of Jesus have come up with a radical concept that Judas was not a traitor, but rather a man who helped Jesus attain his metaphysical destiny. Today, we'll sort out another lie being spread about the Son of God. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. After betraying the Son of God, Judas definitely got a bad name. The name Judas has long since been synonymous with traitor, and so not too many young men are named Judas anymore. But some say we've misinterpreted him. What if Judas was not the betrayer of Jesus, but, irony of ironies, really his confidant and covert operative, entrusted with a secret mission? That's the premise of a document called The Gospel of Judas, unveiled with much fanfare by the National Geographic Society in time for Easter 2006. Now we're about to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus in 2008, and we're talking with Dr. Erwin Lutzer about his new book on slandering Jesus. This book details 6 lies being spread about Christ, and today we've come to lie number 3, that Judas did Jesus a favor. Pastor Lutzer, that's a pretty outlandish claim to make. In what sense did Judas do Jesus a favor?
Well, Dave, what you need to do is to realize that that claim is so spurious. It is so fraudulent. But all of us know that there was a special that was on television about the Judas document. Isn't it interesting that it came out just around Easter, when interest in the resurrection and interest in Jesus is at its height? As a matter of fact, I think that we can expect more of these kind of documentaries about Jesus. Jesus is big news, you know, and everybody wants him in their parade. Everybody wants to say Jesus is on my side, and usually it is because the Jesus that they have created is a figment of their imagination, and therefore the Jesus that they want is not really the Jesus of the Bible. But anyway, to your question. In the early centuries, there were folks by the name of the Gnostics. We've heard so much about them, haven't we? I mean, the Da Vinci Code and what have you. Give you a little bit of background. These Gnostics believed that their heroes were the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah. They believed that Cain was the hero of the Old Testament, not Abel, who brought an acceptable sacrifice. What they tried to do is to combine Greek mythology, or I should say, yes, Greek philosophy, with Christianity. And so what they did is they looked at the New Testament documents and they came up with all kinds of bizarre ideas. And among the ideas that they came up with is to write a document which is called the Judas document. And they came up with a document which we call today the Gospel of Judas. It's really misnamed. There's no gospel in the Gospel of Judas. But they wrote this document which really praises Judas for what he did. Now let's back up a little bit and try to understand why Judas would have been a hero to them. Because the Gnostics believed that matter was evil. And because it was evil, the best thing you can do is to get out of your body and liberate your soul. So death, therefore, is very welcome because the body is the prison of the soul. So when Judas betrayed Jesus, in that context, therefore, Judas did Jesus a favor. And of course there's no resurrection, because after all, you need to understand, why would Jesus want to come back to this world with a literal body? So that's the reason why Judas becomes a hero in what is known as the Judas document.
Well, Dr. Lutzer, obviously there's going to be a lot of differences between the New Testament Gospels and the so-called Gospel of Judas. Tell us how this document, as seen on the National Geographic Channel, how does this document vary from biblical Christianity?
You know, Dave, what I'd like to do to give people a flavor of the document is to read a paragraph or two, if that'd be okay.
Oh, sure.
Because when you read this document, you know right away that you have in your hands a $3 bill. because this is what it says. One day when he, Jesus, was with his disciples in pious observance, when he approached his disciples gathered together and seated and offering a prayer of thanksgiving over the bread, he laughed. Remember, this is the laughing Jesus, the Jesus of the Gnostics. The disciples asked why he is laughing, and Jesus replies that he is not laughing at them because they are doing the will of their God. God is a small g, because there are many gods so far as the Gnostics are concerned. When they became angry, Jesus asked anyone among them to bring out the perfect human being to stand before him, and only Judas was able to stand before him. Jesus says to Judas, "You will become the 13th, and you will be cursed by the other generation, and you will come to rule over them. In the last days they will curse your accent to the holy generation." Now, why is it that Judas qualifies as the superhuman being above all the other disciples? Well, the answer is, you will sacrifice, if I were to read on, you would read this, you will sacrifice the man who clothes me. In other words, Judas, you're going to betray me, I'm going to die, and you will have done me a favor. So that gives you an idea of what the Judas document really sounds like.
Pastor Lutzer, do any scholars put any real credence in the actual value or accuracy of this document?
Well, they shouldn't. Let me tell you a little bit more about the Gnostics. But of course, you need to understand, Dave, that we're living in an era where people are just so desirous to rewrite the New Testament. If they can find any evidence that somehow discounts a New Testament story, they will do it. And that's why they're really grasping for straws here. It's unbelievable. I have quotes in my book that from famous scholars who say that the Judas document gives us no historical information whatever. It is totally irrelevant. Furthermore, it was written about 100 years after the time of Jesus. Because remember, the Gnostics lived later, and they tried to combine Greek philosophy and Christianity. What is more, this document was known by Irenaeus. In the year 180, he refers to it and shows how spurious it is and deals with it, and the Christian church never gave it